Music is my roots to bring in musicians and artists to talk about their craft and what they do and their experiences. And it's my pleasure and honor to have these two gentlemen to my left and your right. These two fantastic drummers have had some great experiences with the legendary Miles Davis, and they also were part of an album that fused Indian musicians, great Indian musicians, with Miles Davis band members from spanning 3 decades actually, and these two played with Miles. The gentleman right over here, Mr. Lenny White, played on Bitches Brew when he was only 19 years old. 19 years old, wow, still a teenager. And Mr. Vince Wilburn Jr. right over here played with Miles in the 80s on albums like The Man with the Horn, as well as You're Under Arrest, and he is the nephew of Miles Davis. So I'd like to present Mr. Lenny White and Mr. Vince Wilburn Jr. Pleasure to have you on the show.
Good to be here.
Honor to have you on. And as an artist myself, as a trumpet player, I grew up listening to Miles from back in the days when we played with Bird and with Diz, and and also that picture of him looking up at Howard McGee, those days, all the way to his last record with the doo-wop song and everything like that. So I wanted to doo-bop, excuse me. But like on the 26th of May, we just recently celebrated his 83rd birthday. And his artistry is so diverse and it transformed with the times, so fluidly. And a question for each of you, like, what is that common artistic element that he had through the decades of his development and his maturation as an artist?
Well, I just think that he was a forward thinker. So he had a sense of where the music was going or where he wanted his music to go, and so it seems like he was always ahead of the curve. And whatever he recorded, or wherever it was in his heart, in his brain, in his mind, he recorded it, and then it just happened to be, precious music. But he always seemed to have a knack to know where it was going before anybody else did. So, his music stands the test of time. Speaks for itself.
That's for sure. That's for sure. He's been gone for almost 18 years, and it's still
91.
So yeah, exactly. And we still treasure what he contributed to the human race, not just music, but the human race. Mr. White.
Well, I think that he probably, there's Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie, who created, I guess, what you would term to be bebop. And Miles, as a young musician at that time, aspired to be like Bird and Diz. And he learned the language and he learned his craft so well that, like, he was iconic in the fact that, like, he could take that music and bring it into this century. It's like when you learn a craft that well and you're that deep, it doesn't matter what kind of music you play, like that always comes through with anything that you do. And I think that's the thing that stands the test of time, is the fact that, like, he took the time and the effort to really learn his craft. And when you learn craft that well, it doesn't matter what kind of music you play, as Vince said, he's always looking forward. He's a forward thinker, and he found ways to take the original craft and shape it different ways and move it into this decade to that decade to the next decade. It's not like, you change what you do. It's like you find another way to do it. And, with different musicians, different influences, Indian influence, rock influence, or whatever, he managed to take the true craft of playing jazz music to the next level. So you really do have to learn your craft, and if you learn your craft as well as a Miles Davis, you can play anything.
The process of Miles from India is just really fascinating, and talk about, like, describe that process of the creation of that, from the creation album. It took 11 months and it started in Mumbai, am I right?
It was was the brainchild of Yusef Gandhi and Bob Belden. Yusef's the label, the owner of the label. And I guess Yusef and Bob, they started calling musicians who played with Miles, Bob called me and said, I want you to play on Great Expectations and John Pierre, and I think he called Lenny for
I played on Spanish Key and Miles from the Voodoo, which were on Bitches Brew. So like,
I think they thought about who was good for what songs. So, and they called Ron Carter and Jimmy Cobb and Michael Henderson and Marcus.
Just the core.
Yeah, they call a bunch of Chick, right?
Yes.
E. Cozy, and Wallace Roney. Yeah, sure. So, and then everybody recorded through the power of Pro Tools and the computer. Like Lenny was in New York, the Indian musicians were in Mumbai, right? And I was in L.A. So, but it turned out great. It was nominated for a Grammy.
That's right.
Yeah. Should have won.
Yeah, should have.
No disrespect to Randy Brecker.
Yeah, Randy's my man.
Oh, Randy's my man too. No, I love Randy.
I didn't even know who won.
No, Randy won, but we love Randy. But two great records.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the thing. Like, talk about Miles's intuition, because you're just talking about all the great musicians that came out of his band that pretty much he was able to nurture and
Miles
help
Davis
cultivate.
University.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's really interesting because like today, jazz and academia like have this thing, and like a lot of kids go to these different schools to learn how to play jazz. But I don't think that there's any better school than to play with a master musician every night. So, and if you think about all the people that played with Miles, who now have come out of the Miles School and have influenced all these different other kinds of music, Miles Davis University is probably the biggest university of all.
Yes. And you learn on the bandstand. That's
Exactly. That's what he did. That's the way he learned.
He didn't go to Juilliard. He left.
Well, he went, but he went looking for Charlie Parker.
Yeah, exactly.
He went for a few days.
Exactly.
But that's the best way to get it, man. Get it on the stage. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the
Makes you
honest
think.
way to get it.
Yeah.
That's like true African tradition. What you do is the elder tells you, puts hands on and tells you how to do things. You don't read it in a book. And then so they pass it on. And that's what Miles did, is he passed it on. So it's not, I talk about this all the time. I don't think, for me, jazz is not a style of music. It's my heritage, because all of the people that I listened to coming up and were my heroes, I learned from them. I actually had hands-on with them, and they taught me. So it's not a style of music to me, it's my heritage. And I do the same with my young musicians. I think that's the obligation that you have, to do that. And as I said, Miles Davis University is one of the largest universities of all music.